Morning. We are moving ahead in Rambam Hilchos HaKarbonos. Today we are going to deal with a very interesting concept and has ramifications in many, many ways. Perik Yud Dalid Halacha Zayin Hilchos HaKarbonos, and it'll also take us back to Hilchos Bias Hamikdash, Perik Tes, halachas that we learned there, because the Rambam references those halachas. And he starts off saying, Kvar biarnu, we've already established or explained, one who makes a base, a home outside of the Migdash, to be makriv karbanos, to bring karbanos, einay kebeis aveda zara. It is not like a house of aveda zara. It's not considered a aveda zara house, church and kedem. Eimer harei alai oilo chakri vanam migdash. However, if I say I want to bring a garden to Migdash, I bring it there. It's not a Migdash. It's not a base how we deserve. It's not a Migdash either. Now, reverse. If he says I make a neder, now this is an interesting concept. What is this house? Now, the Gemara talks about this concept in Menachos. In other places, we're going to get involved in that. The Gemara talks about a place in Egypt that was called Beis Chonyai. Now, I want to give you a quick, brief history of Beis Chonyai. Chonyai was the son Shimon HaTzadik, great man. And when Shimon HaTzadik, who was a Kohen Gadol, passed away, he said that his son Chonyai should take his place because he knew Aveda very, very well. He had a brother, Shimi. He knows more than that. However, watch what happens here. Chonyai was humble, so to speak. So he didn't want to be Kohen Gadol before his brother Shimi, because he was 2.5 years older than him, his brother. So Shimi became Kohen Gadol in place of his father, Shimon HaTzadik. However, after a little while, Chonyai realized, I made a mistake. Should have taken this. So he figured, I'll get rid of Shimi. What did he do? He came and he said, come, I'll teach you how to do Aveda properly, since Shimi didn't know it well. So he got his wife, he got a woman's type of robe, which was white. And he put a certain, belt or something on it. And he told him to go work by the Mizbeach. Listen to the way, and he showed him how to do it. As soon as Shimi, in his simplicity, went to do that, so Chonyai went and called over his brothers, the Kohanim, and he said, look what this guy's doing. He promised his wife that the first thing I will do is I'll work in your clothing as a show of my allegiance to you. And I will wear your thing, and I will wear your guard, your belt. Now, his brothers saw that, they wanted to kill him. So they ran over to him. So what are you doing? He said, tell him the story. It's not me. My brother told me to do this. So they turned on Chonyai, and he ran away. to the palace, and he was safe. But every time people saw him, they pointed out, this is the guy who did that thing. So he was very uncomfortable. He went to Egypt, and in Egypt there lived tens of thousands of Jews. And he made a temple, a Migdash, built a Mizbeach, and used it to be Makav Kavanas HaDeish. And that, just to note that there's the Nevuah of Yeshayahu is about this. Yeshayahu mentions it, that there will be a Mizbeach in Eretz Mitzrayim. And that Mizbeach lasted for 200 years, and it was called Beis Chonyai. Okay, so this is the story. He didn't mean any of it. He wasn't going against the Eibush. He just wanted to be Makav Kavanas. Can't be Makav Kavanas there because they would kill him. So he made it there. And obviously, the Jews in Egypt were very happy to have a place to bring Kavanas. Now, even though it's not really a carbon, but nevertheless. Okay, so, but this is the story behind it. The Rambam doesn't mention any, doesn't give it a name. He just talks about Bias, Chutz, Lamigdash, Lagner, Kavanas. But the Rambam stresses, in other words, you may think it is. Why? Why would you think it is? It has nothing to do with Beis HaVeidazar. Hilchos Bias Migdash, he speaks more regarding the sin. Now, Nisha Ovar va'asa Bias Chutz Lamigdash Laker v'kabonoi lashem. Here he adds another word to the Eibush. Ain't like a Beis HaVeidazar. Again, not like a Beis HaVeidazar. Otherwise, I would think it is. Yeah. Aval PK. Kol koyin sheshimish v'bayis kazeh v'shamish v'migdash leilon. They're here, don't go to Migdash. That's a din. That's what we learn from the Gemara. And kalim shenishtamshu behem sham v'yishtamshu behem b'migdash leilon ella yignezu. Yes, you have to hide any vessels that were used in Beis Chonyai, or as the Rambam says, Bayis Chutz Lamigdash. Gotta hide. Yearly, says the Rambam, that if a Kohen did this, he worked there. Kohen went to Egypt and worked in Beis Chonyai, and then he made Aliyah and he moved to Israel. And now he wants to join the Kahanim in that Israel. Don't let him. Right? That's what he said. But if he did do it, and he does have Aveda, loy pasal, doesn't make it possible. Now, this is predicated on another halacha, and that is Halacha Yud Gimel there, the halacha preceding this halacha. The Rambam writes that any akait that was avad Avodah intentionally or unintentionally, and even though he did the greatest tshuva gemura, cannot serve in the Migdash at all. So this is the source by which the Chachamim extended it to this bias chutz l'migdash. And the pasuk is layikshu alai l'chaim. Yeah. Now, regarding Kalim, the Gemara says, it's a Gemara in Avodah if it's okay. And the Gemara says it's a knas. The other Gemara says clearly, I can't consider Rabbana. Because they're Bnei but Kalim no. He said that's Surim. And he said there was a pasuk we knew and we forgot. All right, now there's one more point when he talks about when he talks about if a guy who was a kohen who served in the Mikdash. Right? He served in the Mikdash. So in that means Mikdash, when he writes, Ovar v'hikriv, so he writes, Ein karbanai reach nichayach. Then he goes on to explain, but a sheikhet, Avodah b'sheigig is different, karbanai reach nichayach. And he uses an interesting expression of reach nichayach regarding this halacha. So we mentioned already a couple of things. First, that he seems to be very strong about stressing that it's not a bias of a desire. It's not a base of a desire. In Hilchos Bias Mikdash, he stresses that it was kabbalah. He made a bias la'akar b'kabbalah l'shem, and in Hilchos Ma'aser Kabbalas, he doesn't use the word l'shem. Just misha also bias. Then let's see. He writes, "V'yirali, I believe." That was a chiddush of the Rambam. That he doesn't pass. Yes, Mishnah writes, right? You're not asking, you just said it's the time of the Mistaba. Since it's the Rabbana, you don't do it. There's a sefer called Tshuva Me'ira on the Rambam, and he asks, why is the Rambam right Me'ira? Where did you ever see a Rabbana make apostle a carbon? And the Rambam later brings all the things that are mechal carbon. He brings only the rices. You never find that a Rabbanan should pass it. So why would that be an issue? Why would he do that? So that's another issue. And when he writes, so the question is that possible? Or is it only l'chatchila? So the Tshuva Me'ira says, it's a big, I've never seen such a thing that a keli should pass a lot of the B'diavad. I mean, unless it's not a keli that's holy, but this keli is holy, it's only abundant, right? Okay. We noted that his lashon is Ovar v'hikriv ein karbonoi reach nichoyach. That's what he said in Halacha Yud. If a person who was who shechted in Avodah Zarah, not shechted, did Avodah now based Avodah Zarah, he brings a carbon ein karbonoi reich nichoyach. Now this is based on a Gemara. Shagag was ein reich nichoyach, ein karbonoi reich nichoyach. The Gemara uses that lashon. Now, generally, that's not the lashon. The lashon is puzzle kosher. So, what is ein reich kosher puzzle? What is that? It's not reich nichayach. And why does he use such a strange lashon? Now, if you're reading the Rambam, it's quite obvious that what he meant was puzzle, because it says v'yirali, that the person who is makriv in Beis Chonyai is not possible, which means that an Avodah Zarah is possible. So it seems that Einei l'reich nichayach is psul. So why does he use that lashon? Why does he say possible? He wants to use lashon Gemara. That goofy. Why does the Gemara use that lashon? Okay. I'm going to give a bit of an introduction to this concept that we're going to talk about. A while ago, before the Second World War, probably, I don't know exactly how many years, I'm not a historian, but it was a while back. In the last 150, 200 years, there was a raging debate in Israel. Not only in Israel, amongst many, many great scholars, whether it was an opportune time before social media, before everything you did became a public issue and therefore impossible to carry out. But basically the idea was that the Turkish government that was controlling Eretz Yisrael would be favorable and allow Jews to bring a carbon Pesach bring karbanos on the Makam HaMikdash. So there was a massive debate as to whether you can, and there was the Archan Lener was involved, and there was other Svarim involved. It's not for here to get involved. So the Archan there in his Tshuva Binyan Tzion, Siman Aleph writes as follows: that even what is it based on the Gemara that says Makriv and Avvishem bias? I believe we gave a share on that concept once, but that's not what we're getting into now. That's not our issue. I just want to bring out the Nakuda. It says even if we hold Makriv and Avvishem bias, and where do you learn that out? Well, it says Vashemaisi. It's Migdasheicha, that it's still called the Beis Hamikdash. It says, however, since the Eibishter says, I'm not going to accept your I will not have a favorable response to your kavanas. So, and we say in Zvachim and the Rambam Braskins, and we've spoken about it once or twice before, l'shem shisha dvar mazevach nizbach, and including reyach and including nichaya. You have to have a carbon for it. And since David says, I'm not going to take reyach nichaya from you, so that means David is telling you, don't bring me a carbon. So how can you bring a carbon? If I say, what to say, Makriv and Avvishem bias, and he says that it depends what the situation is. If it's in the process of being built, okay. But when David says, hey, we're still in Golas, then you can do. That's one answer. Other answers, okay. Now, I don't want to get into all these things, but basically, another point that he makes is that it's only with the evidence, it's good, but the Chatchila now. Now, we have to know, but the Netziv says there are kabbanas doesn't say in the Torah reich l'chayach. So you're saying there's no reich l'chayach on those kabbanas. Not every carbon is required reich l'chayach, and the carbon Pesach, which doesn't say reich l'chayach, maybe it should be mutter, which would be a big chiddush to say that. Okay. So now, assuming that the Rambam used the words reich nechayach here literally in Hilchas Bias Migdash, so and reich nechayach means it's possible. So you see that reich nechayach is possible. And it's not only the chatchila the way they want to say. So he says, so perhaps that if we have a rule in Halacha, kol haroy lebila bila makevus, chol she'ein haroy lebila ein bila makevus. Chol haroy lebila ein bila makevus, chol ein haroy lebila bila makevus. Which means, if you have no possibility of doing this, then it's makevus, even if it's only l'chatchila. In karbanas, in kotchim, things like that. So, if that's the case, so since today there is shayich reich nechayich, he just skipped it. It's no good. But if he can't have reich nechayich, it could be that it's no good. But for sure, and even if you're going to tell me that since Mashiach is coming any minute, so it's possible reich nechayich. However, that's about the carbon, but the koyin that has been said la yikshu elai l'chayli, the Torah took him away from his reich nechayach, and that could be even for korbanos that doesn't say reich nechayach, because the Rebbe Chelik Lamed Beis explains the inyan of reich nechayach, and he says that reich is stressed in certain korbanos that have no personal gain. I'm not going through the whole sikha here, but the point is that reich nechayach means it's totally forgotten. those karbanas that have a personal advantage to yourself, then that's lacking in that reyach nichoyach, so to speak. But it's not that it doesn't have reyach nichoyach, that's why it doesn't stress reyach nichoyach. Okay. But you could understand that if the Torah says there is no reyach nichoyach, the carbon could be lost. Now, where does it say lo yiriyach reyach nichoyach? In Parashat V'chakaisa. What does he talk about there? He talks about Avodah Zarah. Shmati is b'meiseichem, v'chrati is chamaneichem. Oh, so there, I'm taking away your Avodah Zarah, and that says lo yiriyach reyach nichoyach. So it couldn't be. That's what they learned, that Avodah Zarah, anything that's connected to Avodah Zarah, you can't connect to Kavanas. There's no reyach nichoyach. So if that's the case, it would explain why here suddenly appears a new lashon. Because that's what it's about. That's the makar absul. That's why the Rambam stresses that. Now, Beis Chanyoy is a drabanan based on that issue. So true. It's not Avodah Zarah house, but since it is based on the Avodah Zarah, that's what he wants to say. Einay based Avodah Zarah. Yes, it's a drabanan based on that, but einay based Avodah Zarah. That's why he stresses that. We didn't give it a total halacha based Avodah Zarah, and that based on is also about einay l'reich nechayach, but not the total. And that's why it's a year lead. Because there would be reason to say it all goes together. There would be reason to say that since Beis Chanya is based on the Zarah concept, and it's Einay L'Reich Nechayach, so it should have the din of Einay Roi L'Bila, and it's Einay Reich Nechayach. Einay Nechayach, when you can't have Reich Nechayach, but it's no good. And this would be a svart apostle Kalim Shenishtam Shalav Zarah. Even though we don't find Kalim Basli, but here it's a concept of Einay L'Reich Nechayach. It's a different psul. We noted that in Hilches Bias Migdash, she writes that if somebody makes a bias chutz lemigdash, he doesn't say it with a shame. Einay kebeis Avodah Zarah. Hilches Bias Migdash, she writes l'shem. Chayes posh. Why? Over here, the chiddush is not the fact that you're doing you're not stressed l'shem. Chiddush is even if he didn't stress l'shem, he just didn't do it for Avodah Zarah. And he's coming to tell you what the halachas are of that place. When he's coming to tell you that a kohen can't be mishamish the migdash, and he's considered a sort of like an Avodah Zarah kohen, and it's Einay L'Reich Nechayach, he tells you even though there was l'shem, that's why he's stressing the l'shem. That's why there is a that comes out, I think, a very good explanation in this Rambam. Al-Kapanim. Seid gesund, Hatzlacha.